Side politics on KTN News now. There is a plot apparently to impeach the deputy president. Members of parliament allied to President Uhuru Kenyatta and ODM leader Raila Odinga daring Deputy President William Ruto to resign for what they term as reprehensible conduct. MPs accuse Ruto of gross misconduct and violation of oath of office, saying his 2022 presidential ambitions have distracted him from his role as Deputy President. Remarks not taken very lightly by pro-Ruto members of parliament, when a quick rejoinder expressed confidence in their numbers in parliament, daring their counterparts to bring it on.
In a strongly worded statement, the group of MPs brought together by the handshake said it was time for Deputy President William Ruto to pack out of office and concentrate on his 2022 political ambitions.
We feel that William Ruto must shape up or ship out. He needs time and undivided attention to pursue the only thing and ambition that makes sense to him and meaning in his life, which is to dream and campaign for his 2022 presidential, presidential election.
The MPs accused Ruto of, among other things, public misconduct, corruption, grave malpractices, and undermining the office of the president and other public institutions. For this reason, they say, the centre can no longer hold with the second-in-command still in office.
The deputy president should therefore be the last person to complain against government institutions in funerals, roadside pronouncement with a loud megaphone that can only undermine the authority and mandate of government institutions and may well constitute an offense against public order.
Of late, the Deputy President has conducted himself in a manner in which borders on disrespect to the presidency.
Ruto must respect the institution of presidency, respect the holder of the office, or ship out.
In a show of might, Ruto-allied MPs equally came out in their numbers, guns blazing, saying the DP is going nowhere. The MPs, led by Gatundu South Member of Parliament Moses Kuria, challenged their counterparts to bring forth the impeachment motion.
Kuna baadhi ya wabunge wanaosema wanataka kumuimpeach deputy president. Sisi tunasema kujeni kama sahihi.
If Raila Odinga and ODM have two options, and one of them is William Ruto resigning, take it from me that William Ruto is not resigning because he is not anybody's appointee.
This would not be the first time MPs have called for the deputy president to resign from office. With Ruto's relationship with once bosom buddy President Kenyatta deteriorating by the day, will the centre hold till 2022 elections? Akisa Wandera, KTN News.
All right, so gentlemen, how easy or hard is it to impeach the DP Dismas?
Well, looking at what these members are suggesting, probability of impeaching Deputy President William Samoei Ruto is 0. They'll be shooting in the dark. Unless the president himself decides to deploy all his political capital and pushes the agenda in person. But those MPs who are addressing the news conference saying they want to impeach the Deputy President, probability is 0. However, what they'll be able to do...
Why do you say that?
I mean, first of all, you need to get 115 MPs to sign into a motion so that you can have the conversation going. That's one they'll be able to achieve 100%. And when you look at impeachments across the world, 90%, the intention has never been to kick somebody out of office. It's just to subject him to ridicule and get a few skeletons from the closet. So you're going to have those MPs, the part of them BBI, they'll bring a motion to the National Assembly, and then they'll have their day in, to play to the gallery, whereby they'll level all manner of accusations. And for a duration of time, everybody will be talking about the skeletons in Ruto's closet. But when it comes to getting 233 MPs, probability of getting that 0. So it may not even get to go to the Senate.
It's dead on arrival.
It's dead on arrival. But when you look at the cumulative process, then they're going to get a lot of skeletons from Ruto's closet that will embarrass him for 2022.
All right. Husband, what do you think?
I think it's true. I mean, anyone would be scared. Anyone would be scared of an impeachment motion for the simple reason that it might bring other things. You might succeed in not being impeached, but the other issues might emerge that might be counterproductive in your political life going forward. But I think looking at the Constitution and I think the pronouncements by different members of Parliament, Article 150 of the Constitution is very clear that there's a basis upon which you can institute an impeachment motion in Parliament, and all you need is to get a third of Parliament to endorse that. And I think that can happen. It can go to Parliament, and the motion can take shape. But then to get 2/3 majority in Parliament, to then have the Deputy President impeached by Parliament, to take it to the Senate, in which case now Article 144 and 145 will come to effect. The process in itself, if it gets to Senate, is something that anyone should be scared of, because then there'll be a committee, you'll be subjected to a committee which will investigate, you'll be called, and then you'll have to defend yourself. And then if there's no substance, then Senate will let you go. If there's substantive reason, then what will happen? There'll be a vote in Senate, which needs 2/3 majority. I think getting that 2/3 majority in Senate is, again, very difficult. But I don't think there's anyone, as a Deputy President, who would want to go through the entire process of being investigated, being subjected to, a quasi-judicial committee. That, I think, is something that the Deputy President should be scared of, because it can actually go all the way. He may not be impeached. And you've seen globally. I mean, Trump was impeached by Congress. It went to the Senate, and the whole thing just flopped. But I think the critical issue is not even what will go to Parliament. The critical issue is, how did we get ourselves into this space? And I think there are certain things that have happened, certain behavior that have been exhibited by very senior politicians that point to a direction that, oscillates between this thin line between gross misconduct and what is not gross misconduct. And what politicians are doing is that, depending on where you are situated and your political persuasion, then you just assume that this thing has tilted more towards gross misconduct. And then the politicians who are supportive of the Deputy President are saying this is not gross misconduct. And I think it is incumbent upon our leadership, to expand this line so that there's a clear distinction between what they are doing as elected leaders and what they could be doing that probably is in their own interest, does not violate the Constitution, but is still within the law. A number of people have talked about the Deputy President, starting the 2022 campaign. And I think the Deputy President has also complained that there are people who are out to stop him. And we need a distinction here. People are allowed to stop him. We live in a democratic county. If I want to become the next member of Parliament of Suna East, already there are people who are fighting me, and it is their democratic right. But that fight should not be muddled in so many things, because what we are having here is so many things have been bandied in this fight against the Deputy President, so much so that even if he is defending himself against gross misconduct, the water is already muddied that he can actually clamp all these things to be political fights.
All right, good points. Mark, for this to go on, the pro-impeachment plot have to garner 115 members to be able to have the motion table in Parliament, and then they need now the magic 233 members, and the Senate, 45 members in the Senate, which is quite an uphill task. And then the Ruto needs 117 members to stop that from going to the Senate vote. What do you see happening here?
Number one, let me, before I answer your question, let me just backtrack for the politicians, because our politicians don't think, they're too emotional to think. Number one, they forget one thing. Impeachment is good for Ruto because it plays into his current narrative. He is the victim of a system that wants him out. Then you wake up the next day and you deploy a system to kick him out. So what are you basically doing? You're playing into his hands. Okay? Now, William Ruto is sitting pretty because he knows. For him to be impeached, it is not about the numbers of votes to be garnered. This is Kenya. It is about how much money will be deployed to make it happen. Because we know the going rate of our MPs is around 10,000 shillings in a toilet. I'm not sure whether it becomes more expensive when you get out of the toilet, but inside it's 10,000. So it will be a money game. Let's be clear. Now,
that's part of the game.
Yes. So this impeachment will, yes, be high drama. If it happens, it will be all about, look at what he did. Weston will be brought back. The land he gave back to the old man will be brought back. There'll be all manner of things that the MPs on this side of impeaching him will bring up. But here's the question. The question is, will it galvanize Ruto's base? Now, the truth is, it will. It will, because when you go to Sigotik, and you ask a lady there selling her pineapples, and you ask her, do you know what impeachment is? She will tell you no. She will tell you the system is trying to get rid of our son, and it will galvanize the base that Ruto wants to galvanize. So impeachment, whether it works or not, is advantage William Ruto. They're actually playing into his hands. They're playing into his strategy because, and this is something that people have not figured out, for William Ruto to remain a viable candidate in Mount Kenya, he must be a victim of Uhuru Kenyatta, so that they have pity on the poor guy who's being mistreated by the system. So any move towards that direction is helping Ruto. So what will happen? If they go, they'll get the 115, no problem. Right. We'll be treated to a lot of drama, a lot of tears, a lot of accusations and stuff like that. But unless, as Dismas put it, Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Odinga employ all of their political capital to impeach Ruto, it will not happen. But should they do so, then be guaranteed, then the BBI has a no campaign and it has someone to stand against it. Strategically speaking, it is best for the president if he does not rock the boat. Because if there is no deputy president, he does not get to play the Sonko card. He has to anoint one. Now, where is he going to get one? One that will steady the ship in Rift Valley. So it is a greater loss for the president to lose William Ruto now as deputy president. Again, also, you don't need to impeach a guy who you can just simply give tasks of opening things and have no real power within government. So strategically speaking, impeaching is game Ruto.
There'll be more noise for the president,
yes,
for him to do anything.
Yes.
All right. Kipchumba, some people have been saying the impeachment of your client, Ferdinand Waititu, as Kiambu governor, gave a clearer picture of who indeed has the numbers. But of course, that is erroneous to say, because for the impeachment of a governor, you just need a simple majority. 27 members or senators voted to impeach Waititu. Only 39 were in the House. You need 45 to vote for the impeachment of a deputy president. How do you see this playing out?
Ben, one, I'll tell you, this is just a noise. There is no impeachment here. There is no way it is going. When you have a serious impeachment and impeachable offenses, you don't table them in Serena. The National Assembly was empty that day. The Senate was empty. When you have serious people who want to impeach a deputy president, they don't go around rumor mongering in saloons and guignozes and those places. They just go direct to the National Assembly and do that. But back to the facts now and the politics. One, I think if this is a strategy by Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Odinga, they should go back to class 1 of politics. One, you do not deploy the greatest arsenal when the war is beginning. That is a basic principle in war. You do not deploy the heaviest of artillery to a war that has just begun. From where I sit, if they are fighting William Ruto, the war has just begun. Impeachment is true to the end as it is to where they are beginning. The other point is this. When you look at numbers, there was a time when they wanted to change the election from August to December. They could not get the 233. They were short by 8 votes. And that was for their own interest. Members of parliament to extend their own term by 4 months. They couldn't get the numbers. So as an issue of numbers, it is going nowhere. But look at now the William Ruto, the political animal. There was a time we had a maize scandal in this country. I think it was Halwale and some people who came up with with a censure motion against William Ruto. Back then, William Ruto was just an agriculture minister who was a Pentagon member in ODM. What did that censure motion do to William Ruto? One, it sent a panic mode in the entire Rift Valley and its 49 members of parliament that, look here, we are, and our son is under siege. That immediately catapulted Ruto from being just an agriculture minister to being a principal in Kenyan politics. What you are doing with this impeachment motion, and I can say authoritatively, the effects of an impeachment, even Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Odinga cannot deal with it. It will have much far-reaching effects than we are thinking. The first casualty, as Bichachi has said, will be the BBI. I can tell you, if you try to impeach William Ruto today, and that impeachment catches fire, where William Ruto has solid support, BBI will have lost from the first point, because the argument will be, if it cannot unite 3 politicians, how can it unite Kenya? The other thing about the impeachment is this: if you bring or mobilize the political capital of Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Odinga, and you do not impeach William Ruto, you will have created a mountain in the name of William Ruto. Going to 2022, he will know that I can do anything and say anything and nothing will happen. The other thing also, 117 members of parliament is very easy to get, to deny anybody an impeachment or to go to Senate. And I can tell you, for an impeachment of a governor, one senator costs 500,000. I'm speaking factually now. 500,000. When you have to impeach a deputy president, you will have to deploy on a lower grade 10 billion. I can assure you, Ben. Do we have people within our political space with money to that place? I don't know. The other thing to Uhuru Kenyatta, you know what people don't know and what Kenyans must be told. Uhuru Kenyatta has entered his last quarter as a president. A few days ago, I think 8 days ago, he entered his last quarter. And as he nears the end of his term, he becomes what Dismas might not like to say, African presidents become a lame duck. Politically, he'll become one. He might be walking around with a whole military barracks, but he's a lame duck politically. So as you near that kind of a rope, you don't want to bring things that might test your political capital to the core. Because one, we can say his political party is not known properly now. Because Jubilee as it is, you cannot put it where? Where is Uhuru Kenyatta in Jubilee? Is in Kieleweka or where? The other thing, and the final thing about this impeachment thing, when you bring people to impeach somebody, at the end, I felt sorry for these parliamentarians. In just that impeachment, the 7 or 8 parliamentarians who came from Kalenjin land, I can tell you here again, they have lost their seats by trying to impeach William Ruto. So people...
Maybe the electorate are more democratic than you think.
No.
All right.
From the reaction that happened, like Gladwell Tungo, and to some extent, Gideon Moi, will suffer the fate of this impeachment, not on other grounds, but on the ground that people feel you are part of the people who are victimizing our son, and part of the system.
We'll be watching to see what will be
Ben,
happening.
you know, the critical thing is that, like for instance, when we voted in Kisii to send these members of the National Assembly, their core business really is to work on the economy. So when they're being thrown around like a pendulum, left, right, talking about impeachment because they're going to get these maybe $1 million bob or 10 billion, are they really thinking about Mura back in the village? Because at this stage, Mura may not be interested in impeachment. Mura is looking at her bank balance and she's bleeding. And if President Kenyatta or the system that the WSR talks about wants to cripple the deputy president, then they can deploy some administrative voodoo. You know, deny him his escort, deny him salary, do these things, frustrate him, so that he becomes like Atiku Abubakar in Nigeria, but ensure that we do not bleed as a nation. Because if this happens, right now the economy is going to bleed because of coronavirus, and then you want to impeach Ruto, the economy again is going to bleed. We may not recover even in 5 years.
Can the president, before I come to you, Mark, can President Uhuru Kenyatta afford to have this kind of noise around the ruling political party in terms of big four agenda, which Kenyans don't know where it is right now?
Well, from what I see it, I think, bringing in President Uhuru Kenyatta's name into all this thing, I think is misplaced. Already there is noise in Jubilee, and that is already in the public domain. And it is noise that the president is not interested in, and I think he has demonstrated enough times that he's not interested in the noise. He has come out clearly to say he supports BBI because this is an effort to unite Kenyans and provide a framework for the Big Four, to be realized by Kenyans. And if Big Four is 100% achieved, I think you cannot deny President Uhuru Kenyatta that political capital, because then the benefits will only accrue to Kenyans. But then, for me, I think the bigger picture is, instead of bastardizing this impeachment process, because this is a provision that is in the law, and any elected member of parliament has the wherewithal to initiate an impeachment motion if they have reasons to believe that the person that they want to impeach has violated the provisions of the Constitution that they swore to protect, has demonstrated gross misconduct. And the critical issue we should be asking ourselves, have we seen the deputy president, involved in all this? We may want to say, oh, President, BBI will suffer. I mean, James Orengo himself has instituted impeachment motions before. He instituted one against President Moi's government, against Professor George Saitoti. So was BBI there? Was President Uhuru Kenyatta there? Against Waiguru. Was President Uhuru Kenyatta there? No. We just need to unpack this impeachment for what it is, without looking at, the other things that are happening. I don't think it is of any interest to the president. The president wants to serve the people. And if you ask me, serving the people does not require this all noise that you're going to have in parliament. So probably he may not even support this impeachment motion. But I think his support or lack of it is academic. I mean, this is an initiative by the members of parliament. And if they feel that there's gross misconduct by the deputy president, they can take it to wherever it goes. If they manage, it is okay. If they decide to take it and it gives the deputy president enough political clout to think that now in 2022 I have the numbers, so be it. But this is a process that Kenyans need to appreciate. Next time it will be Kipchumba as the president, and we will want to impeach
the president can
Kipchumba.
stop it, can't he?
Well, I mean, to say that the president can stop it is to say that the president has this power and he has the goodwill from the members of parliament, that he can actually tell them that, you know what, this is the situation that we have, this is how this will affect the foregoing situation, and the interest of the people is that we don't want this kind of noise.
Okay.
But that does not mean that members of parliament would listen to the president, because members of parliament are representatives of the people, and if they feel that the people that they represent are not getting service from this government because of the deputy president,
okay,
they can go ahead with the motion.
Mark.
This is what the people who want to stop William Ruto need to realize. William Ruto is a fighter. And when you put him in constant fights, he comes out on top. Okay? If you look at the Echasa debacle, any other politician would have struggled to come out of it. William Ruto, in one speech, just one, changed the whole story and created a poltergeist called the system. And now we are discussing the system. And don't underestimate the power of a fake enemy in a democratic process. Strategically speaking, when Trump said they're coming with drugs, they're coming with murder, my friend, he galvanized the United States and convinced them that despite the fact that the Mexicans can dig tunnels, building a wall is a good idea. And that is the power William Ruto has. So the people who want to stop William Ruto, free advice, impeachment is not the way to go. Beat him politically. Because what you're going to do with impeachment is you're only going to convince those who are already convinced that William Ruto is not a good leader, that he is not a good leader. It will not gain you an inch into Rift Valley, I can tell you for free. Because the truth of the matter is, if you look at the last 3 years and how many negative stories have been there about William Ruto, it's only served to galvanize him there. And now that there's the system, anytime you try and touch him using the law, parliament and wherever, you are simply playing into his hands. So the best strategy to do is very simple. Find a way of weakening his base. So free advice. Go and strengthen Gideon in Rift Valley.
Okay.
2, give the Mount Kenya electorate a new hero to champion their cause. That should be your biggest concerns. These concerns of trying to bring Ruto into disrepute is not going to work, because guess what? The people who follow William Ruto and the people who follow Sonko and the people who follow Waititu do not care how they behave.
All right. A lot of free advice to those.
I think, Ben, that is an advice that is anchored on the basis that this impeachment is a political fight.
But it is political.
Which are the things we need to distinguish?
But it is a political
Yes,
fight.
yes. We need to distinguish. To what extent is it political? And to what extent is it just a process that is provided for in the law and a legislator is doing his work? You know, that distinction should be very clear. Because, I mean, if we keep singing every day that there is this amorphous group that is fighting the deputy president, what we are creating in the public domain is you know, some confusion along the political class that does not help.
Ben, I think Hezbollah as a communication person also should be realistic. He should not be an ivory tower dweller. Impeachments worldwide are not about physics or science. They are based on politics.
Yes.
Even if you are impeaching today anybody, you impeach them for political expedience. It might come with the reason of governance and what have you. Because look at it this way, Hezbollah. You have given Uhuru Kenyatta a very good towering terms. But when you look at the terms in that reprehensible conduct of the deputy president, when you read it, and when you are just a reasonable Kenyan, and you read all these things, and assuming they have happened, the first person the parliament should impeach is Uhuru Kenyatta. Because all those things, when they were happening, Uhuru Kenyatta was not on vacation. He was a president here. You need to ask yourself, if we are saying politically, and parliamentarians are real with us, when Kimwarer and Arora happened, Uhuru Kenyatta was the president. There was an executive direction that you cannot, Uhuru Kenyatta is the only person who should sign the expenditure above $1 billion. What did he do? When we talk about some of these things, when we talk about a man, William Ruto, engaging in politics before 2022, those are political rights in the Constitution, which say the same rights, which if today I want to be a governor in Uasin Gishu, Bichachi has a right to begin with me immediately.
Yes,
the same rights are given to William Ruto as a deputy president. What we need to do now is this, and what we need to ask ourselves, if these parliamentarians are serious and they want to help Kenyans, let them collapse that speech into a bill, let them head to parliament with the motion, and start impeaching William Ruto. But anything else is meant to just to have a space where you can bring all the clout about William Ruto. And
let's pause it there for minutes before we take a commercial break. Very quickly to some of your tweets. Njeri Kimuhu on Twitter says, unfortunately, William Ruto impeachment might cause chaos in this country. Supporters won't take it lying down. MPs need to be responsible and ask themselves what is best for this country. Obunga Apamo says nobody is interested in impeaching WSR. All the system is doing is to weaken him for 2022 election. Ombagi says on Twitter, the chances of impeaching the DP are 0 for now. He has amassed a lot of support. Mutiso John says, I like the way Kenyans and the government under CS Kagwe have responded positively to coronavirus scare. This shows how slow our presidency is in appointing the best. Though it was late, the appointment of Kagwe was a good one. And one here from Kibet Coach says, tweets and says, I think the BBI reggae is bad. No wonder it has been stopped by coronavirus, and DP was right in stopping it. Bernard Kirui says, government telling us to use sanitizers. We shall go to Tatumia Nini. Gilbert Coach tweets and says, we must ban Miraa because it breaches all the precautionary measures put by the Ministry of Health. It is hand-to-hand business. It is openly sold, consumed raw, no heating. And Ryan Musili tweets and says, Governor Joe bans partying gatherings like clubs, bars, but that's petty. Mtwapa is just here the same as Diani. Anybody who wants to entertain himself will go there in just 30 minutes. A good point. Then Miss Mluba says on Twitter, can schools be closed? Clubs are irrelevant. Children are of more value. He says to ask the analysts what they think. You'll tell me what you think about that. Don't go too far. This is Inside Politics. When we come back after this quick commercial break, we shall be wanting to hear from you, have the final say on what we're discussing. Of course, we're talking about the coronavirus, COVID-19, and of course, that plan to impeach the deputy presidents. What do you think? Call us.